Good morning in Zoomland. Good morning. Good morning, morning. I believe and I embrace that it's a beautiful and wonderful day to be on top of the earth. Welcome to the International Women's Day at Pacifica Graduate Institute. Our 2023 theme is Embracing Equity. And for those who are new to Pacifica, I'm Dr. Leonie H. Mattison, President and CEO of Pacifica Graduate Institute. What an amazing opportunity to unite and honor women who fought and continue to fight for our freedom, equality, empowerment, and human rights. Women who opened doors, stepped out on faith, took the elevator up, and sent it back down to bring many of us in this room and online through mentorship, coaching, sponsorship, allyship, counseling, therapy, friendship, mirrors of light, and so much more. As an educator, an executive, and an immigrant, when thinking about equity, I am inspired when people I lead, support, and partner with achieve their dreams. In my private reflections, I consider decisions that resulted in barriers being removed that have been impacted and have impacted our ancestors, learners, employees, and institutions. And in addition, I should add also communities. Looking back, I see my great-grandmother who inspired me. She was raised in a generation that believed that there was no place for her in a man's world. Yet, she taught me how to use the power of my imagination to transform difficult situations into positive outcomes. Looking back, I see my grandmother, who grew up in a prove your worth generation, the generation that asked how a woman could make it in a man's world. My grandmother taught me how to use my intention to turn dreams into reality. Looking back, I see my parents, who gave up everything they had in Jamaica, the West Indies, to come to the U.S. to build a better life for my siblings and me. I learned from my parents values of care, integrity, and service. I grew up in a generation that says if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. I love the next generation and feel a sense of joy in witnessing them extract opportunities from the challenges that they've survived. These are the moments that solidifies my mission on this earth. Reflecting on embracing equity at Pacifica Graduate Institute, I think about the unique and powerful stories of our learners, our faculty, our staff, and alums, most of whom are women. On October 3rd, 2022, when I stepped into the role of President and CEO here at Pacifica Graduate Institute, I stepped in as the first Black woman to serve our almost 50-year-old institution. On day one, I launched a 100-day listening, learning, and connecting tour because I felt it was important to understand Pacifica's points of pride, pain, possibilities, and priorities. The goal was to provide equal opportunities for all community members here at Pacifica to share their individual experiences with me. Listening to and assessing what our pre- and post-traditional learners and employees told me about what the ideal Pacifica looked like and felt like for them, I look forward to continuing to cultivate a thriving culture where we transform and where all are seen, heard, valued, respected, cared for, and an environment where we can succeed. It now becomes about collectively reflecting on where we need to improve as an institution to break down any barriers to equity and truly live our commitment to cultivating, and I'm using the word loving. I know it's not a word that's popular in the higher education institution, but I also believe that if you are love, you give love, you show up as love, and you beam love. So we want to cultivate a loving, respectful, and equitable culture where people feel seen, cared for, and respected. What further motivates me about embracing equity at Pacifica Graduate Institute is our faculty, our staff who are in this room and those who are online, and our administrators. Their deep commitment and belief in our mission to support learners and impact lives, the lives that they feel called, and the mission that they embody, intending souls of and in the world. There's an heightened interest by individuals, corporations, and community leaders to partner with higher education institutions to amplify the value and accessibilities of degrees, certificates, micro-credentials, and enrichment programs. Pacifica is poised to innovate solutions that are rooted in our depth psychology focus to help sectors and underrepresented communities address issues such as the mental health crises, the COVID-19 effects, and lack of access to resources in Santa Barbara County and beyond. I recently read a book, Hacking the Bureaucracy, and the author made a statement that really resonated with me, and the statement goes something like this. If an institution or an organization is promoting innovation, and the innovation, the under-resourced communities are not able to access innovation, then we're not innovating at all. And so one of my focuses includes establishing a task force to engage the Jungian Society, depth psychology community, our workforce leaders, and alums to ensure our programs here at Pacifica Graduate Institute are relevant to various communities and stakeholders. We seek ways, and new ways indeed, to bring industry professionals, residents, and nonprofit and government leaders to partner with us. Pacifica Graduate Institute is also honored to host events like this on International Women's Day, events that bring people together to celebrate impactful work and engage in dialogue on important and challenging topics. Our panelists, both in the room with me today and those who are online, consist of a broad range of influential women who broke down the barriers of yesterday and paved the way for us to change history, shape communities, and transform lives. Women who, through a dynamic range of experience and backgrounds, work actively and passionately to bring truth to light, empower, and elevate women. These women fight for justice and equality and transform their communities and the systems that create and promote equality. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. We honor you and we thank you for the work that you're doing. What I most appreciate about the panel you will hear from today is their authentic commitment, deep love, and unwavering care for people. I invite you all to be present as we embrace equity together. Before we transition to the rich conversation we're about to engage in today, I do want to take a moment to thank our Senior Director of Alumni Relations, Diane Travis-Teague. Thank you to our Director of Student Success, Lauren Lastra. Norma Mesa, our Human Resources Director, winking at me over there, Norma, and our dynamic faculty, our staff, learners, and community members who are in-house and online today, for your commitment to equity and for organizing this wonderful event today. Thank you. Thank you all for joining Pacifica Graduate Institute to celebrate Women's History Month with us. Your presence, all of you, please own this, embrace it, lean into this. Your presence is a gift to humanity. Thank you for being with us today. I will now turn the mic, I think she's online, to Dr. Nuria. There she is.
Yes, thank you. Well, buenos dias. I am very honored to be here accompanied by such an exquisite community in this memorable International Women's Day. When Diane invited me to participate and share the name of the Wonder Woman in this panel, I immediately remembered the title of an article I co-wrote with other Wonder Woman like you. Michelle Fine from the City University of New York, Jessica Fernandez from the University of Santa Clara in California, and Monica Eviandaru from the University of Sanat Dharma in Indonesia. We entitled it Dissident Woman's Letter Writing as Decolonial Plurilogues of Relational Solidarities for Epistemic Justice. And I want to share some excerpts from it because I find it pertinent to this gathering of dissident feminist solidarities. Comadres, compañeras, braiding our words, dizzy dancing, and desires, we challenge structural violence, oppression, inequity, social, racial, epistemic, ecological, and linguistic injustice. We thread reflections in subversive relational conversations, weaving a plurilogue in response to our specific locations, commitments, and refusals, as well as dissidents. Braiding, threading, and weaving reflections together, we animate deep decolonial inquiries within ourselves and our different cultural contexts and countries. We come from various grounds, but weaving in spaces, we become aware of the pervasive colonial difference in our daily lives. It is not the same to enunciate injustice from the social struggle as it is to write and talk about it in the academy. We know because we have been in both places. Comadres, compañeras, I want to palabrandar with you, walking and weaving insurrect words, making roads otherwise, sentipensando in affective conviviality with you, asking day after day Where are the meeting points of solidarity in our struggles for liberation? How can we conspire in the belly of the beast, the hegemonic academy and other institutions, to dismantle the pervasive racism, heteronormativity, ableism, white supremacy, decapitating the capitalist hydra, mobilizing resources, and finally, ending the epistemic and political ignorance and lies written in the Western academic archives? How can we manifest the colonial imagination into transformative embodied action? We must ask many questions because in times of trouble, it is not about finding the right answers, but constantly questioning what is taken for granted. It is about finding ruptures that create systemic dysfunction, dissenting, disobeying, and delinking from the hegemonic empire. Dear comadres, compañeras, it is such an honor to be in your company. A pack of courageous dissident women who run with the wolves, transforming our souls and the world. Thank you for being here with you. Such a gift.
Hello, everyone. My name is Indushri Rajan. I'm an adjunct faculty here at Pacifica in the depth program and also in the clinical program. It's my pleasure to be with you today to welcome you to our panel discussion in honor of International Women's Day. Dr. Maya Angelou said that every time a woman stands up for herself without knowing it, possibly without claiming it, she stands up for all women. On this International Women's Day, with its theme of embracing equity, it's my pleasure to join together with all of you to honor women from every community, culture, and of every color for the inspiration and hope they've brought to so many lives, for their courage to fight for presence, equality, and recognition of their worth, and in so doing, empowering us to know ours, and empowering us to make the sacrifices necessary to ensure that little girls growing up now will know theirs. So it is my pleasure to be with you today. Now I'd like to welcome all of our wonderful panelists. We have 10 incredible panelists today to share their perspective with you and, speak from their space of doing work in the world. And I want to give you a little bit about them before we start. I'm also going to ask that because we want to be able to open up discussion to the audience in attendance, that the panelists would keep their remarks to maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and then we can just be mindful of time, and that way we can hear from everyone today. So a little bit about me. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been working in the nonprofit sector and also in private practice in community mental health for about 25 years. My specialty is working with complex trauma. So I've worked with adult and child survivors of sexual, physical, and psychological abuse. For the last 15 years, I've been focused on working with human trafficking survivors. So I've worked in clinical capacity and also research capacity with sex trafficking survivors here in Los Angeles and also in India and Calcutta. A lot of my teaching centers around cultural trauma and systemic oppression. And it is an issue that is at the core of what I do with my life, that we fight for equity and that we fight for women's rights. So it's my pleasure to moderate today. And in so doing, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Elisa Orduña. She's been a practitioner, policy analyst, a collaborator, and thought leader in homelessness services for the past 25 years. She's done some incredible work in different communities around equity. I'd like to introduce to you Lauren Lastra. She is the co-director of academic affairs and student services, committed to a just and mission-centered approach to organizational life. She's also served as the Institute's sustainability coordinator and to the Office of the President, and she's done work with the United Nations Development Program as well. So some wonderful work. I'd like to welcome Aquila Islam. Thank you for being here with us today. Aquila is a mother, a cyclist, an advocate for the needs and interests of people who have been directly impacted by justice system failures and inequities, and has spent over 15 years collaborating with nonprofit organizations, schools, colleges, and justice entities as a mental health practitioner and educator. So welcome, Aquila, to our panel. Mary Wood is with us today. She is the chair of the MA in Depth Psychology and Creativity with emphasis in the Arts and Humanities program. She's the owner of Talisman Creative Mentoring, a practice that supports artists and creators of all types. So welcome. Thank you so much for being part of our panel today. Would like to also welcome Crystal Farmer Seagar, hope I'm saying your name correctly, who is also a mother, a wife, a Black femme, a grassroots activist, a womanist, and a liberation consultant. Crystal is a co-founder of Healing Justice Santa Barbara and has served for more than 10 years as an experienced community organizer, facilitator, and mentor. Thank you, Crystal, for being with us today. Katya Armas is the Assistant Vice Chancellor and Dean of Student Life at UC Santa Barbara. She's worked on campus for over 32 years, with the first 17 in the Office of Admissions before moving to Student Life. Welcome, Katya, today. Thank you so much for being a part of our panel. And of course, we have Nuria Siafalo, from whom we've already heard. Nuria, we're so happy to have you here. Thank you so much. Vanessa Ramos joins us. She serves as community organizer on the public policy team at Disability Rights California. Her personal lived experience navigating the carceral and public mental health system as a brown bisexual person with disabilities, and her personal recovery journey has allowed her to shape policy and create positive change in many communities. Thank you so much for being here. Leah Garza joins us as well. Leah is an LA-based student in dissertation in the CLIE program at Pacifica Graduate Institute. And she is very, very interested in the ways in which we cling to our modernist individualism and extractive behaviors in the dawning of a great mass extinction and climate collapse. So it sounds like she's got some very passionate work she's doing around climate change. Thank you so much, Leah, for being here. Katie Robinson, welcome. Katie Robinson is here today, and they are currently in the dissertation phase of their PhD in Pacifica's CLIE program, where they are exploring the intersections of police and prison, abolitionist movement, decoloniality, and ontology. Katie has a background in sex education and currently works as a trainer and facilitator for racial justice and abolitionist movements. Welcome, Katie. It's a pleasure to have you here. Okay. So these are our panelists today. And I would like to turn the mic over to Elisa, if you would mind getting us started. Really looking forward to what everybody has to say today. Thank you.
Thank you, Industry. Thank you so much to all, and Dr. Lee, Nuria, Susan, James. So good to see everyone again. In the wide, vast universe of being, Someone mothering is crying, grieving a child missing from their imagined idea of home. By mothering, I mean anyone who has given birth, tried to conceive, adopted, miscarried, is a teacher, a spiritual counselor, a father, an auntie, an environmentalist, anyone who tends to the soul of the world. Yes, someone mothering is missing a child from the imagined home. In this time of battle, as we fight for autonomy of self and sovereignty of body, against the backlash of the faltering, colonial, white, dominant, patriarchal, heteronormative, ableist social paradigm that is crumbling into the depths of the rising waters of climate change. Today, I hold those mothering with loss in my heart, as I also learn to surrender to the primordial presence of Mother Earth, holding all those lost in the roots of her soil, connecting us all to the soul of the world and the bloodstreams of our ancestors. As we gather today to celebrate Women's History Month and honor the essence of the divine feminine embodied in us all, I too hold the darkness of our times. For remembering makes us whole, inclusive, and belonging as we gather in our beingness together. My name is Elisa. I identify as a Black, aging woman of mixed ancestry, a stamp of our history. I graduated from Pacifica in 2021 with a doctorate in depth psychology with a concentration in community, liberation, indigenous, and eco-psychology. I'm a feminine soul supported by the divine masculine, who is committed to fostering cultures of belonging and the advancement of Bell Hook's idea of beloved communities, where we don't have to be perfect, we don't have to be white, we don't have to be a name of ourselves, we simply have to be. I work in homelessness services and policy through a platform called Florence at Least Advancement Network, named after my grandmothers, where I work with members of the public sector to raise consciousness to alternative perspectives of homelessness and determine for all, and especially Black and Indigenous people, to safely live in Earth as our home. The recent visualization of the kidnapping and murder of Black youth just across the border in Mexico over the weekend is heavy on my heart today, as it reminds me of the daily news of missing and murdered Black and Indigenous women and children that is happening across all of our communities, urban, rural, around the world. We have a history, although in these times many are trying to suppress it, of forced family separation and receipt of horrific forms of violence that we must reconcile to end these tragedies. So I'm always honored to go wherever Diane Trivas-Teague invites me to, where I have an opportunity to share space with Dr. Lee, and we connect with my Pacifica guides, Nuria and Susan, as well as many friends and the unknown connection that gathers us all. I take this opportunity of connecting to Pacifica's campus, a portal to the world soul, to tap into its energy and ask, what archetypal forces at play in these days? Why? And what other archetypal forces must emerge to push this one back into balance? Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Elisa. That was beautiful. I'd love to turn the mic now over to Lauren Lastra. Welcome.
Hopefully you can hear me. Awesome. Okay, my name is Lauren Lastra. I am co-director of academic affairs and student services here at Pacifica. And it really has been a great honor serving Pacifica's mission for the last 14 years. So I've worked in various capacities here as a staff member. But today I actually wanted to focus on some of my work that I do in the community and then how that kind of translates and impacts my work here in student services. So a little bit of background, I am a founding board member and current president of Santa Ynez Valley Pride. So we're the first LGBTQ plus nonprofit in the Santa Ynez Valley. And we just started about a year ago. So it's really been about creating space for the community and allowing people to show up authentically and as themselves. And we had the first Pride Parade and festival actually last year, which was a big success in our small town of Solvang. And really the youth and also community members felt like they were seen for the first time by the larger community. So I also do want to say out loud, it feels important that, today is International Women's Day, and that includes and amplifies and celebrates trans women, non-cis, and non-binary folks as well. So that feels really important to say out loud and celebrate as we recognize International Women's Day. Also, another, part of my work is as a board member for People Helping People, which is also another nonprofit in Santa Ynez Valley, and which serves the most vulnerable in our community and houses a lot of different services under one umbrella. So we have food distribution, mental health services, housing accommodations, all of that under the People Helping People umbrella. So that's all about access. So those two themes, creating space, having a seat at the table, which really is a lot of what I do with Santa Ynez Valley Pride, and then also access, which is really a central mission of People Helping People, translates to my work here at Pacifica. So I'm always curious whether it's engaging with colleagues, with our learners. I'm always curious who's at the table, and most importantly, who's not at the table, whose voice needs to be brought in. How can we create space for our colleagues and for our learners? And that also goes hand in hand with access. How do our learners access our student support services? How are they available? And how do we ensure all students of all abilities feel supported at Pacifica? So I just want to say thank you. And it's great being here with all of you in the room and also all of you online. So
thank you so much. That was wonderful. I would like to now invite Aquila Islam to please speak. We are so happy to have you with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Aquila Islam, and it really feels great to be here with you today on International Women's Day. In general, just in celebration of women and gender equity. I just want to take a small moment to thank Diane, as everyone has done, for just inviting me here today to speak. And then everyone on the panel and everyone that's here to participate in the dialogue as well. So the way that I embrace equity is really simple. It's to center it. For me, centering equity is a transformative practice. It helps me to encourage a paradigm shifting response to the way most people think about alternatives to incarceration at the individual, community, and system levels. Specifically, I believe that acknowledging harm and connection to life experience, family systems, community, structural violence, or some combination promotes expression and helps to create accountability by extending new paradigms of teaching and learning across the California criminal legal system. For example, my desire to help elevate the skills, power, and experiences of my family, organizations, and the communities to which I belong led me to become a resource, or as many people know it, a foster parent, in support of children and families who came into contact with San Francisco's Department of Children and Family Services during the height of the pandemic. In addition to taking on the role of primary caretaker for a young child during this time, I supported my daughter's pursuit of higher education and taught restorative principles, concepts, and practices via correspondence to students at 2 California state prisons. Most students that participated in these courses are from communities that are racially marginalized, primarily Black, African American, and Latinx communities. They are classified by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation as male, including men, trans women, and non-binary people. Within this context, I learned about the importance of deep rest, rooting in nature, and giving others the chance to take a break from and/or transform difficult conditions as a practice of equitable recovery. In other words, one of the simplest yet most powerful shifts in my life emerged as I took time to center and fully engage in my own needs and interests. My Qigong instructor, Morris Seagar, refers to this move as paying attention to ratio. Encompassed in my experience working with systems impacted and justice-involved youth, is providing therapeutic services to youth on probation, youth who witness or survive violence, youth in certain school settings, youth exiting the criminal legal system preparing to reenter their communities, and youth detained at San Francisco's Juvenile Justice Center. The population at the intersection of homelessness and the criminal justice system in San Francisco faces unique barriers to housing stability, such as housing discrimination and job loss sustained while in custody. Most recently, I was inspired to back myself professionally in response to the deep existing racial disparities that continue to take a toll on Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and Asian communities in the San Francisco Bay Area. In particular, I accepted an analyst position where I will manage housing and justice system initiatives with the City and County of San Francisco's Department of Homelessness and supportive housing. The goal of this project is to break the links between housing instability and jail incarceration. Some of the work includes leading stakeholder coordination, community outreach, collaborative planning, and program implementation work to fill this gap in San Francisco. I will work closely with housing and justice partners across the city, including San Francisco's Safety and Justice Challenge, an initiative funded by the MacArthur Foundation to reduce the jail population and racial disparities in jail. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Aquila, for speaking. I would now like to invite Mary Antonia Wood to speak. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here today. Hi, everyone here in the room, colleagues, friends, mentors, students, and online as well. I want to focus today on the embodiment of what it means to embrace equity. Nuria talked about embodiment just a moment ago, and I want to continue that thread. In order to prepare for these brief remarks, I went on to the International Women's Day website to do a little research, because that's what we do here. What I found there was a embodied action, a pose, is what it's called on the website, that just didn't seem to fit. It was a little off-putting. It didn't really convey what it means, at least what I'd like to convey to you today, what it means to embrace equity. And the pose looks like this. If you go onto the website, you'll see it. There are models in this pose. There are actual people holding that pose. Social media posts. The Women's Day organizers have encouraged people to send, selfies with this sort of self-embrace, which is beautiful, but it is not an embrace of equity, or at least not the way that it impacted me. It is a self-embrace. It is also a defensive maneuver, closing oneself off like this. In thinking of how we embody this, I'd like us to picture a real embrace. Something more like this, where we open ourselves first. We show ourselves to the other, and then we invite them close. So close that we mingle breath, we mingle perfume. We're right there with that other person. So that is it. And the first step is a step of risk. It's opening oneself first, showing your heart. We're all mammals. We're showing our vital organs. We're showing our little soft bellies the way that all mammals do when they feel safe, ready to take a risk. We show up and we show ourselves first. So this idea of risking the personal is something that I try to bring into my teaching here at Pacifica and mentoring of our learners in my program and the others that I have the good fortune to encounter. I realized that, to bring in a Jungian term, there is a lot of persona, the mask that we wear as educators. And to risk letting that mask slip a little bit or become a little transparent is an opening. That's an embrace of showing ourselves, telling our stories, and inviting others to tell their stories. That's how we can determine areas of inequality, lack of equity, not only in our own backgrounds, but especially in those of others. That's how we know what our next steps might be to remedy, to heal. But the first step is one of vulnerability. So that is what I'd like us to perhaps embody today, test out, take a risk of telling your colleagues, your friends, your students, your professors, a little bit something more about you than the usual introductions. Let that persona perhaps slip just a little bit, become a little more transparent so that we can really know each other. We've got to know each other first before we can make true steps toward equity, toward equality. So I will end there, and I will thank you all for being here in person and everyone online, and turn it back to you, Industry.
Thank you so much, Mary. Really appreciate you. I would love to, at this point, invite Crystal Farmer Seagar to speak. It's so lovely to have you today with us, Crystal.
Hi. Can everybody hear me? Sorry, my son is kicking me right now, so I'm just gonna rock a little bit because otherwise, his body, not mine. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be here today. I know we all said it, but thank you, Diane, for continuing to just see healing justice, to value the work we do, and to honor and acknowledge, the women that we are. My name is Crystal Farmer Seagar. My pronouns are she, her. Whoa, my baby is kicking me. He's excited. I am a co-founder of Healing Justice Santa Barbara, along with Simone Aquila Rescamp, who also uses she, her pronouns. She just had a baby, actually, and is in Washington, D.C., where she lives because she graduated from Howard, and also with Letitia Forney Rush. Her pronouns are she, her. Embracing equity to me really looks like allowing Black women, Black non-binary folks, and Black trans folks to lead. And I say this because Black women have carried me. Black non-binary folks have nurtured me. They have mentored me, and they have guided me all my life, starting from my grandmother to my aunt, to my sisters, to many of the Black elders in this community. And they have shaped me into the woman you see today. We founded Healing Justice Santa Barbara, which is a nonprofit that uplifts and affirms all Black African American people. In 2020, due to the destabilizing impacts of racism, specifically anti-Black racism. And me and Simone were organizing in this community. I'm a longtime descendant of people from Santa Barbara. My family's been here since 1906. And Simone graduated from UCSB, was alum, spent many years in Santa Barbara. And Letitia is actually a descendant of the first Black registered person in Santa Barbara, Jerry Forney. And so we really had been organizing in this community for a long, long time, showing up for many different other communities, non-Black communities, but we always felt erased and undervalued. And as we learned history, right, the history of Santa Barbara County, we found that was the history for a lot of Black African American people in this community, right? A lot of their contributions had come to be unknown and lost and undervalued and not recognized. So we did what Black women do best, and we started our own organization where that would no longer be the narrative in this community. And one of our greatest successes has been to push forward equity by telling history, right? And by honoring our ancestors. And it's been just a joy connecting with community, connecting with our elders, and learning about the contributions we made in Santa Barbara. We partnered with the city of Santa Barbara, and we did a Black African American historic context statement that is now recognized by the government. And because of that work, the California Preservation Fund in San Francisco will not only be honoring us with an award, but will actually be presenting at that conference in April. I say this all to say, wow, look what happens when you allow Black women to do what they do best, right? Look what happens when you create space for us to see ourselves, to value the contributions we have made into the community, and to allow our voices to be heard. We didn't start this work. It was started long, long ago, right, by a lot of our Black churches. And people created families, right, and they were kin to each other. And the Black African American community has still held on to that tradition today, right? We love each other. We look out for each other. And so equity really looks like, to me, just loving one another, right? Because that is why I do this work, because my grandmother loved me, and then because I loved Simone, and then because we loved each other, we were able to create space for a community that has been historically marginalized and long, long overdue to be acknowledged and recognized. And so I'm honored and blessed to do this work. I'm honored and blessed to be able to not only show up as a Black femme and a Black mother, but also for my ancestors. And that is why I continue to do this work. So thank you so much to Pacifica Graduate Institute for inviting me to be on this panel. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal. It's so wonderful to be here to just hear about all of the powerful work being done by women in our communities. So empowering. It's really beautiful. Thank you all for all that you've shared. And next, I would like to invite Katya Armas to share. Welcome. We're really happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm just in awe. I'm just soaking it up being here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I don't even need to talk. I just want to listen to you all. My name is Katya Armas. My pronouns are she and her. And I live in Santa Barbara. And equity to me is really about service. I am of service. And selfishly, service has helped me get to where I am. And it's something that I'm passionate about and that I am intentional about. And it's about me being in community. One of my favorite poems, Shirley Chisholm, service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. And I really try to embody that. It's my life work. At UC Santa Barbara, where I've worked for 32 years, I'm an alum, and I didn't necessarily stay in Santa Barbara after I graduated. I moved to New York for a while, but I found myself back here, and I knew I wanted to work at UCSB. I knew I wanted my life work to match my values, and my experience as a Black woman at UCSB was pretty miserable in the 80s. And my goal was to do whatever I could to make it a better place for students of color, specifically Black students. And that has been a lot of my focus of my work there. I want to be a possibility model, not that anybody needs to think they have to be like Katya, but that they could be who they want to be. And doing a lot of listening and mentoring. And the thing about mentoring, it's funny because you hear the word mentoring and you think that means you are being all wise and telling folks what to do or giving them advice, but it's a lot of just listening. And I've learned so much, and students at UCSB teach me every single day. And so the practicing of listening and being in community, even when they're really angry at me, which happens sometimes, you know. I'm passionate about leadership. I actually teach a leadership class in our Barrett Graduate School of Education. I also co-teach a course around civic engagement. I'm in the advisor of the Black Student Union. I wasn't for a couple of years, but 10 years before that, an advisor and you know, working closely with them. Within the community, I through a program called Catherine Harvey Fellows, which currently sits with the nonprofit Leading from Within. My cohort started Youth Making Change, which is now housed in the Fund for Santa Barbara, and I'm super proud of that work and that it just continues to thrive. My son, when he was in high school, actually participated in the program, and I've just, you know, really enjoyed seeing students gain a lot from being part of that nonprofit. I was part of CATO's Fighting Back program and mentored two sisters for over 10 years. And seeing them grow and thrive is, you know, just something really special to me. I participate in a lot of nonprofit boards. Is another way for me to be of service. Currently on Women's Economic Venture, learning a lot about that nonprofit right now. And I also co-facilitate women in leadership through Antioch University. On campus, I think a big growth point for me was getting involved in our Professional Women's Association, and I did that for many years. I was co-chair of the service committee where we collected donations of backpack and school supplies for many, many years to distribute within the community, and also hosted a holiday party at Isla Vista School, which I loved, and gave teddy bears to the preschools, the state-funded preschools, and that always brought me joy. And I eventually chaired Professional Women's Association at UCSB. And one of the things I really enjoyed is having folks get involved, mostly women, but men were welcome to join the organization as well, and learn a lot of skills and gain confidence, and then see them begin to advance their career because they had the confidence and they gained some new skills being volunteering and being part of that organization and knowing that they were worthy, they were smart, they could do the work. Also at UCSB, there's something called Gaucho Mentor Program, and have mentored graduate students and staff members. And again, I learn every day from the folks that I work with at UCSB. Through our professional organization for student affairs, specifically NASPA, they have a program for students who are interested in going into the profession of student affairs. And I've had a woman student the past 6 years every year. And in fact, I just attended a conference in Riverside for Black staff and faculty in the UC system. We convened in Riverside, and one of my former mentees is career professional staff at UCLA now, and seeing her in that element was just so joyful for me. We went out to dinner and just caught up. And that's what sustains me. And so I just leave with, for me, equity in working towards that has been service. It's served me selfishly, and it's nurtured me, and it inspires me every day. So thank you for having me, and I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much, Katya. It's such a pleasure to have you. At this time, I'd love to welcome Vanessa Ramos, part of our panel, to please speak. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good day to you all. I come to you from the indigenous land of the Tongva people, which is better known today as Los Angeles, California. As was mentioned earlier, my name is Vanessa Ramos, and my pronouns are she and in Spanish, ella. I am an indigenous woman. I'm cisgender, and I understand the importance of acknowledging our land. I'm honored to share with you that I am the daughter of immigrant parents, with my mother being of Mayan descent and my father being a native of Armenia. I do want to disclose to you that I have both gained and have been further traumatized by colonialism. I would be lying to you if I said that I have not gained. However, my experiences have given birth to my commitment and dedication to shameless, unapologetic advocacy. As I prayed for inspiration, I couldn't help to see the beautiful image of Dr. Leonie Matheson, who has helped elevate and awaken the power of so many women around the world. Dr. Matheson, I honor your courage and your commitment to the work of communities all over the world. You have touched women in India, in Africa, in Asia, in the U.S., South America, and the list goes on and on. Thank you. As a person who navigated an ableist world, I found myself in a solitary confinement cell as a young mother. Today, I understand that I needed care as a young person, not incarceration. As I dove further inward, I found that I was misdiagnosed with the schizoaffective diagnosis, which is a form of schizophrenia and classifies as a mental health disability, when in actuality, I was experiencing the negative impacts of trauma that was born from the incest that I survived as a child. Looking back, I understand that I was mistreated by a system that holds its influence in monetary gain, the psychiatric industrial complex that unfortunately has flooded the higher education system by leaving and minimizing the power of traditional healing practices out of professional clinical training. You can't address the incest that I experienced in 15-minute psychiatric sessions that would lead to a laundry list of medications that negatively impacted and further disabled my body. I'm sorry, you just can't get to that in 15 minutes. Today, I understand that healing and change are within our reach. I truly encourage you all to advocate that access to care be inclusive of all cultures. For example, hosting cultural competence pieces of training in settings that do not include communities and are developed by leaders who lack warmth is simply not equitable. This form of community reach or lack thereof, and I'm speaking in hiring as well, leads to terminology that labels our people as hard to reach, when in reality, people are not hard to reach or difficult to work with. As people working in our systems, we fail to connect with people in a manner that is respectful and trustworthy. So I invite you to stop and to get honest about our approaches to one another. People respond to care. People are resilient and are born perfect, no matter the shape, the sound, the sight, the feel, and the identification. We may lack the ability to control today's current system as a whole, However, we do not lack the ability to advocate for what is ethical, appropriate, and worthy of duplicating. Simply put, some of our practices, some of what we're learning should not be duplicated. And at our core, we know that. For me and for so many that I know, we find healing through somatic experiences, community circles, movement that include yoga, dance, and prayer. As a thank you to so many who have better informed my life, I'm currently training with the Prison Yoga Project to amplify the healing practice of accessible yoga throughout the juvenile and women's prison system. I professionally, as mentioned, hold a role with Disability Rights California. DRC is our great state's protection and advocacy agency. We litigate and advocate and protect the rights of disabled Californians. I am proud of the work that is achieved by DRC, and I am proud of the work of so many who have traveled the path of advocacy before me. I'd like to leave you with a few things before I end. I'd like to leave you with the words of empowerment by a little lady that was far from little. I am speaking about the late Anne Frank, who wrote, "How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world." Dr. Matheson, I applaud you and the team at Pacifica and hope to return to dive into disability and access, as many organizations complete great work when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. But unfortunately, many have dropped the A in DEIA, which is accessibility. Many times requires breaking through ableism and requires monetary commitment to build and sustain up-to-date practices, such as hiring of a reasonable accommodations manager who understands what accommodations are, investing in supporting accommodations at the beginning of the recruiting process, and sustaining health and wellness practices throughout someone's education and employment. Again, I thank you all, and I can't say it enough. Dr. Matheson, you have helped to change my life. Working with you, learning with you, and growing with you has given me the strength to say yes. So when your team reached out and said, "Will you present?" I said, absolutely. If Dr. Leonie Matheson is a part of it, absolutely yes, yes, yes. So thank you so much for having me. And I can't wait to get to our question and answer session.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for your passion and for your vulnerability. I know you're such a dynamic speaker. You've been really moved by everything that I've heard from all of our speakers today. Thank you. Leah Garza, welcome. And thank you so much for being here today. I'd love to hear what you have to share.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm a little nervous, so I just want to be upfront about that. I am so touched, and I just generally tickled that I would be invited to do something like this. I am a dissertation student in the CLIE program, and I have such an affection and love for Pacifica. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. And in dissertation land, where you're working on your own, I definitely cling to any opportunity to come back and feel at home here. So thank you so much. In thinking about embracing equity, I thought immediately, just as many people here have invoked their ancestors, I thought immediately about my grandmother, Irene Treviño Garza, who she had a third grade education, and her mother, Petra Garcia Treviño, had no education. She was an indigenous woman from what is now referred to as the Rio Grande Valley. And here I am working toward the highest degree in the land. And I think I had not put that into a perspective until being invited to do this panel and what that actually means. And simultaneously, I'm a student of decoloniality. I'm specifically a student of decolonial depth psychology. And so I I'm asked to wonder, equity toward what ends? Equity in a system that subverted the knowledge systems of my great-grandmother, that, erased languages of my great-grandmother. And I wonder what my role is here. And I think about my work is really fixated on studying ontology and the question of what counts as reality. What knowledge systems are valid knowledge systems. And it's interesting to me to find myself, as wonderful as Pacifica is, in a traditional university system that is part of that nexus of subverting indigenous knowledges. And what does it mean to have success here? Am I actually embracing equity, or am I a part of that subversion and that erasure? I don't have the answer to that. And I think one of the best things that I've learned through my decolonial studies is that maybe knowing isn't even the answer to these things, that having the answer isn't the answer, which is really, really hard to explain when you're asked to write, several hundred pages of a dissertation about what you know. But the more that I read, the more that I learn, the more that I become a relational being and see myself as inherently belonging here, the less I know or have confidence in what I am supposed to know. The more I turn to, like, what was it that my ancestors knew that was erased, even from our own lineages, even as I visited my great-grandmother's grave actually while doing a fieldwork project in 2019. And I discovered that she has no headstone because even in our own family, she was invisible. Like, nobody paid for a headstone. They verified that her remains were there in the ground, but even to her own family, she didn't matter enough to be remembered in that way. And so I wonder a lot about, what then is equity? What am I doing? And what will I do to put that headstone there, to remember, to bring all of those ancestors who have been made invisible forward, while simultaneously performing what I need to perform to have success in the academy. No, that was very brief. That's pretty much all I got for you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Leah. Appreciate your questions for us. And last but certainly not least, I really am excited to welcome Katie Robinson. Please share with us your thoughts about equity and Women's Day today. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good day, everyone. I feel like I've just been sitting back and soaking in so much work and so much intention. And as another dissertation student, so many hours of reading, so many hours that have been written. And so I just want to first, I feel in the company of the people that I am, that I never knew I could be, who are committed to moving ideas. And I agree with Leah. Leah, we're in the same cohort. There's something so special about Pacifica. And I feel like the first time I stepped foot on campus, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Here are my people, people who want to get underneath it all and explore and play and move around with, things that are challenging, are charged, things like race, gender, every single identity that is oppressed, and ideas of healing and harm and mental illness and ability. It's kind of like, out in the world, we don't get to dive into or play with these things or poke at them. And I feel like I've been able to do that in my experience at Pacifica. So just deep, deep gratitude. And thank you for the invitation. Yeah, equity. I think as I came to this, I have ideas about equity. I have so many questions about equity. And as Leah said, equity towards what? And then as I was sitting here, I was like, oh my God, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but I was like, oh yeah, this is International Women's Day. Like, I'm a woman in this space, which is an identity I move in and out of pretty fluidly. And so I kind of had to, my nervous system got kind of jacked up, and now I'm kind of like settling back down to just keep it completely real. And I had to get up and go to my bookshelf and just pick up Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde, because I feel like she's another person who was so deeply writing about the experiences of women and disabled women and queer women, and at the same time was poking at what that is. And so I was like, okay, let me grab her really quick, because I do have questions about. I'm going to talk about my work, and then I'm going to let y'all decide if that is kind of like advancing equity, right? Because I don't know that I can answer that right now. But so yeah, I came into Pacifica in 2018, and I was my background is in sex education, so I was a sex educator, and I had been doing a lot of work in the juvenile justice system, doing sex ed, having conversations with young people about condoms and love, and you know, just had a great time in there. And I came into Pacifica, and I was kind of immediately shook by these ideas around ontology, and immediately was kind of like, wait a minute, there are things I thought I knew that now I don't know that I know anymore. Specifically things around racial identity, specifically things around gender, and the way that the West has classified mental illness, and the way that it classifies health versus not in health, or healed versus unhealed, or as my work progressed, woke versus not woke, and all of these kind of binaries that really sum up a colonial modernist ontology. And so as in CLIE, as we were kind of investigating what are the ways that Western psychology has perpetuated modernism, coloniality, it got me thinking about movement work, because I came in as an abolitionist, and I came in I came in knowing what needed to be done. And I feel like as I've progressed, I'm kind of like, okay, am I limiting myself by that reality that I'm believing in, and how can I shift? And so my dissertation work is really around questioning what are the realities, what are the assumptions we're making about ontology and reality within our movement spaces. In CLAE, we got really good at questioning what are the pitfalls of a particular, you know, ontology within mental health. And I feel like I kind of have moved that into thinking about what are we limiting ourselves by in movement? What are the things that we're taking for granted in movement that if we didn't believe in them, if they weren't as true as we think they are, what could happen to our movements? So I've been thinking about this idea of an ontological edge, this kind of borderlands between different realities that I feel like the abolitionist, police and prison abolitionist movement is perched upon. So I'm going to give y'all, I'm here on Dakota and Anishinaabe land in Minneapolis. So yeah, it's been hot here. It's been hot. And if people have been out in any of the protest spaces or anything like that, you might have heard a chant that goes, let me bring it up. You might have heard people saying, prosecute the police, and also saying, defund the police, right? You might have heard people saying, you know, the indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. And then the second part of that chant is the whole damn system is guilty as hell. And so it's kind of like these two different examples. I see them perched between these two ontologies where we want to send these cops to jail, but we also want to defund the police. We want to prosecute these people, but also the whole system is guilty. And so applying this idea and these ideas of a decolonial ontology to abolitionist movement spaces, I'm just kind of like exploring what are the limitations of what we think people are, of what we think race is, and wanting to think differently about how we've categorized and couched oppression. And so that's a little bit about my work. Again, I'm not sure if it's embracing equity, if it's embracing something else, but overall, I do appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to y'all about it today, and just to be, within this community where I can explore these things. So yeah, peace. Happy to talk to folks in the Q&A and keep it moving.
Thank you so much, Katie. Really appreciate your sharing. I'm just struck as I listen to everyone. Equity is process also. I think it's so important for us to keep the aliveness of what we're talking about and to keep moving. So I love that we seem to have this kind of mix of questions of where being real about where we are with different things, maybe not having the answers, maybe being okay with not having the answers. And I think it's so important to honor the process. This is an ongoing process, and it's so wonderful to be able to hold these ideas and these questions, and just to be here all with you today as we honor International Women's Day. We just have a few minutes here left before we have to end. I think the discussion was so rich. We don't have a whole lot of time for questions, but, is there somebody who can help me with?
Yeah, it is great.
If there's questions in the audience or.
So, because we're running out of time, if anyone has any questions, we would love to take a few minutes. But we also wanted to give some time and space for anyone, either online or in the audience, that wanted to share either a reading or a poem or just a short little statement. We wanted to leave some time for that as well.
I just want to say thank you. Big hug. Thank you. This is needed. So deep appreciation.
Thank you, Kathy.
Wonderful.
Was there any other questions? If not, I would love to invite the audience, both online and in person. If anyone wants to share, I'm happy to turn the mic over.
Yes, this is Nina Hemati, and I want to thank you, everyone who shared. I'm really grateful to hear all your thoughts, and thank you, Dr. Industry. It was really great. And I'm Iranian, and I just want to honor women life freedom movement right now that's going on in Iran and everywhere else by Iranians. And I think women and men are like two wings of a bird, and if they are not equal, the birds cannot fly. So yeah, all the things that you said, that was so wonderful, that we know what's going on in order to women be equal in the world with men. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nina.
Sure. Thanks.
Anyone else in the audience here or online?
Just gratitude. If I may, my name is Wanda Lyons Pruitt, and I'm president of the Santa Maria Lompoc branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. You know us as the NAACP. And I got this notice yesterday, and you piqued my interest, and I just thought I'd pop in. And I just want you all to know that I am so glad that I did. I mean, everyone, you hear something that is so powerful, and just don't question whether you know it's equity or not, because if you're doing the work, it is equity. Thank you so much for embracing equity. Some of you I know, Miss Krista, Miss Vanessa, Miss Katya. Thank you all, Dr. Leone. Wow, this so moving, so great. Wow. I can't wait to get to record it. Thank you again, and just happy International Women's Day. You guys are doing it. Women, you are doing it. You are standing on your ancestors' shoulders and you're doing the work. Thank you.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know you could hear me. I thank you. I was waiting for a go. Anyway, what I'd like to say is I like Lawanda was just saying, grateful that I was invited and could tune in and hear this powerful series of comments. But I just want to say a short thing, and that is, Lawanda also just said we standing on the shoulders of ancestors, and so many years to get to where we are. And I would just say to this team of women who just presented, you are the ones we've been waiting for. We've been year after year after year after year wanting to get to a different place, a better place, raise up our young people, be role models for people seeing what we do in the community, and hoping that the next generation will take over and continue the work. And your evidence that the next generation is continuing the work. So I just want to thank you for all that everybody said today. It is very reassuring that everything is going forward. I can't say too much, but thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Diane Travis Teague, the Director of Alumni Relations. It has been our honor to host you today, to be with you, to spend this time. We encourage you to continue embracing and equity and embracing one another. I would like to thank our committee, Lauren, Norma. It's been a pleasure. Rika, thank you for helping us out. And as we leave, I leave you with my favorite quote of all times, Maya Angelou. People may forget what you did, they may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And we will never forget how you've made us feel today. Thank you all, and please embrace one another. Have a good day. Happy International Women's Day.